Well, the first track I recorded on Acolyte was The Hands of the Priestess, and it was the 12-string version, part 1, and it was really a flute solo. 12-string guitar. I borrowed Mike Rutherford's 12-string, and I borrowed the band Mellotron. John played it fantastically. And you know, that night was fantastic because we could only record after 6 o'clock at night in the government aviation building in Kingsway that we'd booked. And so Kingsway Recorders, I think it was, or Kingsway Sound. At the end of that night, I knew because that track was so good that I thought we'd get a whole album out of it. You know, John had sounded wonderful. He never recorded any professional flute on anything, and just, you know, the sound on the flute, the reverb plate that we used, it just sounded like a breath of fresh air for me. It was, you know, a kind of a sound of production that I thrilled to.
It was an amazing experience, and you know, imagine someone of, you know, I was about 20 at the time, and going to these recording studios with these huge, as they were in those days, great thick reels of tape, watching these things going round and lights flashing. It was a real sort of like being on sort of in Star Trek or something, or so it seemed at the time. And the great thing was that he was able to bring in other instruments like tubular bells and things like that if he needed them. And of course Phil Collins and Mike Rutherford came and played on that album, so that was great for me to, you know, have the experience of performing on an album with them. So it was a fantastic time. And he, on that album, he'd written this piece called Hands of the Priestess, and I think I'm right in saying it was the first piece we actually recorded. You might correct me on that, but I think it was. And that was a big flute solo, and a chance for me to hear myself recorded with reverb and all the rest of it in a professional way. So it was a fantastic opportunity. It's only looking back on it later in life that you realise just what a brilliant opportunity it was. But we had a great time doing that. Really.
I can't remember what was the second track we recorded, but it may well have been Ace of Wands, which became the first track on the album. And of course I had Mike and Phil for the first time. I was working with them, but we weren't working in the band context. You know, for the first time I had those two doing my bidding, and what an extraordinary rhythm section they were, you know, working hard to, you know, learn the stuff on the spot and come up with some incredible playing from both of them. I mean, you know, Phil's drums were extraordinary on that. There were loads of ideas. I think from an opening track, there's probably too many ideas in that piece. I was worried that I wouldn't come up with enough strong hooks, but there's masses of them. And Tony Banks even complimented me about the bass line. Good God, you know, praise from the heights indeed. You know, so I was thrilled with that. It was done on no sleep, lots of cigarettes, cups of soup from the dispenser. Yeah, no food, no sleep. There were building works going on in the flat at Ebury Bridge, upstairs or downstairs, so you know, I'd be working up till 3, get to bed by 4, and by 6 they'd be drilling downstairs. And I've had that scenario before. I had that with Spectral Mornings, but that's another story. You know, but often, you know, projects that are done on very little sleep can sound really great because you are literally dreaming with open eyes. Ace of Wands, when I rehearsed it up with John at home, we did it with, you know, flute and strummy guitar, and we thought it sounded a little bit too much like one of those focus pieces like House of the King, and I wanted to do it as an electric guitar piece, so it's kind of electric folk, a little bit of strange time signature work on that. But it went through a number of changes. It kept changing. Every few bars you get something else. And Phil played beautifully on that. John played wonderfully. My brother, we recorded some flute at half speed, very complicated line. Then when we heard it back, of course, it was at double speed, so it was twice the speed of normal, and so the flute sounded like a piccolo, and what a great line. It was extraordinary. Then I had some Mellotron voices behind it and tubular bells, and then eventually you get to a section of there's a backwards guitar solo on it, but it's not just any backwards guitar solo. It's an acoustic with repeat echo on it, recorded at half speed and played back, so that it sounds like a sort of psychedelic jazz. And I think it's a good solo, but it's one that I can't say that I really played as such. It's just that I threw in the ideas which built to that. So, you know, you've got a couple of repeats going on. It's a sound that I've tried to emulate ever since and never managed to do. I think Ever Quiet sounds quite like that solo, so it's dead weird.